All right, we are live on Facebook and YouTube. Give me one moment while I go live on Instagram and then we will get started. And there we are. All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Start the Week with Spencer. This is our weekly webinar here at Doman International. We do it on our Facebook page, our Instagram and YouTube page. So wherever you are in the world, welcome. The purpose of this webinar is to take questions from parents all around the world. So wherever you are, wherever you're joining from, just go ahead and type a question into the comments box and I will get to them in order as they arrive. You can ask any question that you'd like to. You know, many parents join and ask questions about children with special needs and developmental delays. So I'm more than happy to take those questions. Some parents want to know about the Doman Method early childhood education programs or have parenting questions. So whatever your question is, go ahead and type it into the comments box. I always say to parents that very often the most questions come in the last 5 or 10 minutes of the webinar, and sometimes I can't always get to them in time. So I always urge everyone, get your questions in early so that I have time to answer you. So anyway, I have missed the last few weeks of this webinar because I have been overseas. I was in India. We saw families from all over the region there. We saw families in Bangalore and New Delhi, India. Families came in from the UAE, from Malaysia, from other countries, Saudi Arabia. So it was really a great opportunity to see families from all over that part of the world. Now, while I'm waiting for questions to come in, let me just make a few announcements. So first of all, the Doman Method course, which is our online course for parents of children with special needs, it's the course that gives parents the foundational Doman Method programs so that they can start applying them with their children at home, is now available in 6 different languages. It's available in English, Spanish, Italian, Russian, Serbian, and Arabic. In addition to that online course being available, yesterday was the start of a Mother's Day scholarship that we're providing. So every parent around the world is now eligible for this Mother's Day scholarship where they can get $200 off the Doman Method course if they enroll this week. But that's only the scholarship is only available until the 19th of May, and then after that, it's no longer available, and we will not be providing any more scholarships for the rest of the year. So if you're interested in taking the Doman Method course this year, this is the time to do it. All you have to do is reach out to us on one of our social media pages. A representative will get in contact with you and help you with the process of enrolling. So make sure to take advantage of that. Don't waste time. And then also, in terms of upcoming Doman International appointments, these are in-person evaluations that are happening. We are always providing appointments throughout the year in Philadelphia. That's our headquarters, in New Delhi, India, and in Moscow, Russia. But we also provide at certain times of the year appointments in other locations. So for example, in June, we're going to be doing appointments in California, in New Zealand and Australia. In July, we'll be at our European headquarters in Europe. In September, we'll be in Serbia and in Croatia. I think I've covered everything. So let's see if we have any questions. I don't see any yet. Perfect. Whether you're joining me on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube, you can go ahead and type your questions into the comments box. For those of you who are new to Doman International and want to learn more about what we do, the first thing I'd recommend doing, honestly, since you're joining me already on social media, is just starting to look through our social media pages, right? We are constantly posting success stories of children on the program, educational videos for parents. So go ahead and start watching those videos and stories that we're posting on social media. But then the second step I would say is, look into our books. Our book, the Doman Method from Special Needs to Wellness, really provides parents the answer about what the Doman Method is and how to start applying it with your child with special needs. So I'd recommend the Doman Method book. Actually, you can see it, right there over my shoulder. If it's available on Amazon, it's available all around the world. So if you want to start implementing the Doman method, look into this book. And then, along with the book, the Doman Method from Special Needs to Wellness course is available throughout the year online in all the languages I mentioned before. And so if you're interested in that course, getting in contact with us is definitely the best way to go. All right. Let's see who has a question. Usually I get my questions first through Instagram, so I'll be following there to see. But also if you're here on YouTube or Facebook, I can take questions here. One common question that I get, I saw this a lot with the families that I was seeing in India, is why does my child have difficulty walking downstairs on their own? Why does my child not look where they're walking or hold on to a railing with a death grip? Or why does my child walk down one stair at a time instead of alternating steps? The reason for this is that many children, along with having issues of balance, which are a symptom of their neurodevelopmental delay, they have a visual problem with a very important visual ability called convergence. Convergence is the ability for humans to use our two eyes together, right? So right now I'm able to look at you and make eye contact because I have convergence of vision. My two eyes work together. But many children with special needs have a problem converging their vision. So there's a misalignment of the eyes. This misalignment is often not obvious to parents. And in fact, many professionals misdiagnose it or don't observe it at all. The problem is if your two eyes are not aligned perfectly, you have double vision or blurry vision, right? The human brain has this amazing ability to take images from our two different eyes and overlay them into one clear image, right? You don't have two different images you're looking at right now. You have one clear image. That's because your brain takes your two eyes, which are converged, and converges the two images onto one another. The issue is that many children with special needs cannot do that. And so they're constantly dealing with this double vision or blurry vision. That creates all kinds of problems. When you have double vision, you do not have depth perception, meaning you don't know how far away in distance something is from you. This creates huge problems when you're walking downstairs. Because imagine for a second, you look down at the stairs in front of you, and instead of seeing your 2 feet, you see 4 feet because you have double vision. In addition to that, you don't know if the step down you're about to take is this deep or this deep. That's very scary because if you miss the step, you're going to go tumbling down, right? Or when you step off the curb, you'll fall into the street, right? And so for many children with developmental issues, this convergence issue creates havoc for them. And that's why very often when they walk downstairs, they go down one stair at a time, or when they walk downstairs, they grip onto the railing like a death grip, right? Or someone's hand, because they're constantly fearful of falling because they cannot perceive depth. This is also why many children can often view clumsy, right? Very often these children, because of that double vision, have difficulty catching a ball. Because imagine you're trying to catch a ball, and as it comes closer to you, you see 2 balls instead of 1. Right? Imagine how chaotic that is going to be, right? Many of these children will kind of close their eyes or cover up instead of trying to catch the ball because they don't know which ball do I catch. Okay. It creates a lot of difficulty with hand-eye coordination. So playing many sports becomes very difficult or impossible. It makes it very difficult to read because imagine trying to read a page from a book when the lines are moving over one another like this, right? Or like this. And so many children with these convergence problems have significant reading and writing problems. Some of these children who are even able to talk will say to us, it looks like the words are swimming, or it looks like the words are dancing because they see this movement. And imagine how difficult that is going to be to read if you cannot see the text clearly. So visual convergence problems are actually one of the most common issues we see with children with special needs. I'd say easily 95% of the children that we see have this problem. And the wild thing is that most parents are completely unaware of it, and most professionals have no idea that it exists. And so many people look at these children and, why won't the child look down where they're walking? Why does my child trip over things all the time? Sometimes people will say they're clumsy, or lazy, but that's not at all the case. They just don't see well. And when we're able to heal or solve the underlying convergence problem and get these children using their two eyes together, their eye contact improves, they're able to walk up and down stairs without holding the railing, their reading gets better, their hand-eye coordination and ability to play sports is better. So they improve in so many different ways. And it really demonstrates how important this ability of visual convergence is for children with special needs. I would easily say it's the most common problem kids have with developmental delays that no one seems to know about, including many eye doctors. All right, I have a question here from Irena. And Irena, I might want some more information here. She says, experience with problems with speech, a child of 5 years. Yeah, so Irena, I was just talking about visual convergence, but I'd say probably second to visual convergence, speech problems are the most common problems that we see with children with special needs. Why? Why are speech problems so common with kids with developmental delay? It's because when we talk, we use between 8 and 12 different regions of the brain simultaneously to produce speech. And so the problem is, even if one of those 8 areas is injured in the brain, it can have devastating consequences for a person's speech. So very often children with special needs, as anyone who follows the Doman Method knows, the reason why these children have the issues that they have is because they have an injury in the brain. Their brain has been injured. For some children, that's during pregnancy. Some children, it's during birth. Some children, it's after birth. But regardless of the reason, the brain has been injured. And like I said, if 8 to 12 different regions of the brain need to work together to produce speech, even if one region is injured, it could greatly impact speech development. And so what we've found is we really have to take a holistic approach to treating the brain if we want to help a child learn how to speak. And the Doman Method has been helping children to learn how to speak for 60 or 70 years. But it's because we take this holistic approach. So for example, in addition, of course, with children, we might do speech development activities specifically devoted to produce speech. But there are many other kinds of activities that can help produce speech that aren't obvious. So for example, there's a whole component to our program called the Doman Method Oxygenation Program. It's a breathing program to increase oxygen delivery to the brain, which can have amazing results with improving a child's speech development. In addition to that, we have certain cognitive programs, teaching programs to teach a child how to read, for example. And we find that very often when we teach children to read using large print, which is easy for the child to see, very often we will see a child learn how to speak. And very often it's because these children are better visual learners than auditory learners, right? Very often parents will say to me that they notice that if they show something to their child can learn it. But if they tell their child about something, it seems like the child misses something. And so when we teach a child to read using large text and print, which is easy for the child to see, very often we'll start to see the child naturally speaking more and have a larger speaking vocabulary. So we also do a lot of sensory stimulation, right? We know we have to improve a child's ability to hear for them to speak. We know we have to improve their awareness of their own mouth and tongue through oral and tactile stimulation. So it's really a combination, Irena, of different activities that are needed to produce speech. Very often, if you go to a speech therapist, they might work on one of these areas, but they don't work on all of them. And I think that's why very often when parents bring their children to therapists, they don't see significant results because there's no holistic approach being taken. It's just an approach of trying to get the child to talk which is one of many different components that are needed. And so, Irina, I definitely recommend. I'm not sure if you've read our books. I actually, by chance, I don't have the English book next to me right now, but I have our Serbian book, which is next to me. But this is the Doman Method from Special Needs to Wellness. And, I highly, highly recommend this book. You say your child is 5. The average age, one of the most common questions I get from parents is my child too old for the Doman Method? And this question always makes me kind of sad, because there's no such thing as a child being too old. And I think many parents don't even ask about the Doman Method because they think their child is too old. But actually, the average age of a child starting our program is usually 7 to 8 years of age. So we have children of all different ages. And of course, the earlier you start, the more likely it is that you'll get faster results. But that being said, we have, children and adults on our program who are in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and older. We've even had patients who have had strokes in their 70s and 80s. Interestingly, my grandfather Glenn began his work with, older adults who had sustained brain injuries. And it's only later that he started working with children. And that's a whole different story about why we mostly work with children. But that being said, age is not a factor, and 5 years of age is a great time to start our program. I hope you find that helpful, Irina. All right, Sliwa is saying, my child has autism and deficiency in vision for one eye. Barely she accepts glasses. Do you suggest a way to develop vision? Well, Sliwa, it's a very good question. First of all, if a child does not want to wear glasses, usually there's a reason why the child doesn't want to wear glasses. If the glasses were improving their vision, imagine for a second if you saw the world and your vision was poor, you couldn't see the world clearly, and then someone put glasses on and you could see everything clearly. You don't want to lose the glasses, right? You realize very quickly how important they are. So if a child, after a lot of time, still doesn't want to wear glasses, that's usually an indication that it's not solving the underlying problem that the child has. And like I was saying to you before, and actually I didn't say this clearly, and it's such an important point. This problem of convergence of vision has absolutely nothing to do with the eyes. The convergence issue is a problem within the eye muscles, but it actually has nothing to do with the muscles. It has to do with the brain, right? Because the brain has been injured, it creates a misalignment, a tightness within the eye muscles, which leads to this convergence problem. And the issue, very often, most of the time it's not even diagnosed. But when it's diagnosed, very often doctors try surgery, they try glasses, but it doesn't solve the underlying problem, which is in the brain. And so the child just goes on with this convergence issue. So Sliwa, what we've done over time is created many different programs to help develop this convergence of vision. And you mentioned that your child has an autism diagnosis. And so I would recommend getting this book, which you can see over my shoulder, called Answering Autism. It's a book I wrote with my father, Douglas, specifically for parents of children with an autism diagnosis. And in this book, there are recommendations, treatments that you can start to help develop your child's convergence. Okay. And when that convergence gets better, as I said, you'll see better eye contact, you'll see better reading ability, you'll see your child is able to navigate stairs in the world much easier, because you're finally solving the root cause of the visual problem, which is in the brain. So there are different activities in this Answering Autism book that would be helpful. For example, we go over certain mobility activities like brachiation. We discuss the patterning program, right? These are specific activities that develop this area of the brain called the midbrain, which is responsible for the convergence of vision. Once you develop that area of the brain, convergence gets better. We talk about other parts of the program, like the reading program, which again can help improve vision and convergence. So I highly recommend you get that book, Sliwa, and you start incorporating the activities at home. And by the way, there are many things. Convergence is just one thing discussed in the book, but we also talk about many other things that are problems for children with a diagnosis of autism, like behavior, speech development, coordination issues, sensory problems. We cover it all. So I highly recommend the book. And then Sliwa, I also recommend, if you haven't already, as soon as this Q&A is over, I recommend just shooting us a message, on our Instagram page, and we'll send you some more information specifically for children with autism. All right. By the way, everyone, if some of you have already taken the Doman Method course online or come to Doman International for an appointment and you ask me a question, write that into the question because it's helpful. I don't want to tell you to do something if you've already done it. All right, I have a question here from Manpreet who says, I wanted to ask what I can do to help my 5-year-old son to answer questions. If we ask him anything, he tends to repeat the question. If we give him options, he repeats the options. Okay, so Manpreet, thank you for asking this question, and I'm glad you told me that, because very often with a child who has speech, but who has this kind of the organization issues that you are talking about, very often if you give verbal options, it does help, right? If you say, what do you want for a snack, apple or pear? Sometimes giving those verbal options to a child can be helpful. But as you're saying, he tends to repeat the options. So my next follow-up question would be, have you tried writing down the options? Because very often with a child is, and I actually have something here. This is an example of a choice board, right? So you've got different options written down here where, this is created to ask a child questions if the child has limited speech development, right? So you can see here it says, different options. Do you want to eat? Do you want to play? Do you want to sleep? Or something else, other, okay? And so what I would do with a choice board like this is take the child's hand and point to the choices as I read them out loud, right? So I'd say, what do you want to do right now? Do you want to eat? And I'd point to eat. Do you want to play? Point to play. Do you want to sleep? Or something else? And Manpreet, the kind of, the issues you just described for your child we call organizational issues, right? So he's just kind of repeating or echoing back your speech. That's a problem of organization, meaning he cannot deliver to his mouth the answer he wants to deliver. And he's just echoing back to you. And of course, that's incredibly frustrating. I mean, imagine, if I asked you, are you hungry? And you couldn't say yes, you just had to repeat back, are you hungry? It would drive you literally crazy. And very often these children have tempers. They might be very irritable because they cannot accurately tell their parents what they want. And so very often, Manpreet, I'm kind of wondering, have you tried the written choices to see? Now, very often children like your son, even with written choices, will repeat them back. But then after you've pointed to the choices and you wait, they will point to the answer of the thing they want, right? So they're able to organize themselves to point, make this gross motor movement to indicate what they want. So I'd be interested in hearing, have you tried a choice board yet? And if it was helpful. All right, Sleeve was saying, I had a training with the Doman Method, but it wasn't easy. It requires 3 people with me. Well, Sleeve, so, first of all, most Doman Method programs don't require more than 1 adult. There are certain programs like the patterning program, which requires multiple people, but most of our programs require only 1 adult at a time, right? So things like our reading program are, if some children, for example, do crawling and creeping as a part of our treatment program. the oxygenation program, our sensory programs, those require one adult at a time. So you said you had a training with the Doman Method. Was that with us? Was that with Doman International, or was that some other kind of group or organization? I ask that because sometimes parents will come to us and they've already taken like a Doman Method course, but it's with some other group that we have no association with. It might even be a group that has no experience or certification to teach the Doman Method. It's a big problem we have around the world. So that's why I ask. Okay. Oh, Sandrak is saying, okay. So Sandrak is mentioning here that we started a new initiative this week with, specifically in Spanish, we gave parents access to a bit of the Doman Method course without a cost, just to give them the experience. So she's saying, thank you for the free course. It helps me and my son a lot, especially for the profile development. I will take the complete course in July. That's wonderful, Sandrak. I'm so happy to hear that. All right, Manpreet is saying, I haven't really tried written choices, to be honest. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, so give it a try. The most important thing by the way, so this is called, this program, it's our first communication program, is called the Choice Board. It's very useful for kids with limited or no speech. Here you can see a very simple, this is a yes or no choice board that we would use, again, for a child who's not able to even answer yes and no. So with this choice board, for example, we could ask the child, are you hungry? Yes or no? It's very important when you use these written choices, you point to the choices and you read them out loud for the child, because your child very likely hasn't been taught how to read yet. So you say yes or no. And then you hold your child's hand above the board and you wait for them to point. Don't let go of your child's hand. This is very important. There's something about holding the child's hand which kind of helps organize and focus the child to deliver the answer by pointing. If you take the hand away, very often children are kind of easily distracted and they don't actually complete the task of delivering an answer. So I highly, for children with organizational and speech issues, I highly recommend the Choice Board. The Choice Board is taught both in the Doman Method from Special Needs to Wellness book. It's taught in the Answering Autism book. And then, of course, for parents who take the Doman Method course, we teach it and have videos of us doing it with kids. And that's very, very helpful. All right. I have a question here from Joanna, who says, my 2-month-old doesn't have the left part of the cerebellum. Can we stimulate balance and coordination at this age? Joanna, absolutely. This is the best age to get started with it, because neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change, especially in the first 3 to 6 years of life, is at its optimal state. And so you want to actually get started as soon as possible. So your child, as you said, is missing the left part of the cerebellum. Cerebellum is very important part of the brain for balance and for coordination. That being said, we even have children with diagnoses like, we see children who have complete areas of the brain missing. And one of the amazing things about the human brain is, even if you don't have a certain area of the brain which is complete, very often the brain cells and neurons in the other areas of the brain can start to take over the functions of that missing or injured area of the brain. So I think the most important thing, Joanna, that you can do right now, there are a few things. First of all, the book that you see over my shoulder, the Doman Method from Special Needs to Wellness, I would definitely recommend. The most important thing is to start implementing something called a crawling track for your child. What we do with children, and by the way, we do this with all babies, even babies who don't have injuries in the brain. We create something for them called a crawling track. It is a small environment which is created for them. It has 2 walls, okay, that are very, short, just maybe 12 to 15 centimeters high, something like that. It's a padded surface, which is smooth. And the child is put down in the crawling track. And what we do is we incline the track like this, and we put the child at the top of the track. And so what happens is you put the baby at the top of the track. This is like you said, your child is 2 months old. So your baby can't likely move yet. But the amazing thing is once you incline the track, you take the enemy of gravity, right? Gravity is an enemy for children who don't yet move because gravity sucks our bodies down toward the center of the earth. So for a child with neurological problems, here they are, they're immobile and gravity is pulling them down. But when we put them on the crawling track and incline it, now we take the enemy of gravity and make it into a friend because the child is now inclined. And if the child even makes a slight movement in the crawling track, they move forward a little bit. So the child realizes, wow, if I move my arms and legs, I move forward. And so I move my arms and legs and I move forward. And so the child, after learning that hundreds and hundreds of times, they start to develop the ability to crawl forward on their own. I have several families right now who have been sharing videos with me of their 2-month-old, 3-month-old. Some of these children have had severe brain injuries, and these children are just crawling down the incline track, in 15, 20 seconds because they've been given the opportunity at a very young age to move. So Joanna, this book, as I said, The Doman Method from Special Needs to Wellness, has a whole section on how do you begin the process of helping a child learn how to move. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see this, but here's, for example, a picture. I think it's pretty clear. Here you can see an incline track. The child has been placed in the track, right? It's inclined and it's smooth. So if the child moves their arms and legs, they move forward a little bit. It's not supposed to be a slide. You're not supposed to put the child down and they slide down, but the child is supposed to learn that movement of arms and legs helps them crawling down the floor. So I highly, highly recommend the crawling track for you, Joanna. And then Joanna, for everyone who's joined a little bit later, I mentioned that for everyone who's considering getting started with the Doman Method and wants to take our online course, the Doman Method from Special Needs to Wellness, from today until Sunday, the 19th, we're offering a $200 scholarship to anyone who enrolls in the course. It's a Mother's Day scholarship. We only do this one time a year. Each year, it's in a different time of year. Last year, we did something in celebration of my grandfather, Glenn Doman's birthday. This year, it's in honor of Mother's Day. So from now until May 19th, there's a $200 scholarship. After May 19th, it's not available for the rest of the year. So I highly recommend, if you're interested in the course, shoot us a direct message after this Q&A, and one of our representatives will answer your questions and help you with it. All right, Sliwa, I'm smiling a little bit, and hopefully you'll understand. You said you took a course with a group recognized by Doman International. I'm sorry to tell you this, Sliwa. We don't recognize any other group for teaching children the Doman Method. And anyone who claims they teach the Doman Method that isn't Doman International is not being honest. And this is a common issue. It's very upsetting for us. We have people all around the world that claim that they are certified to teach the Doman Method, that they are approved, that they are experts, and I can assure you that they aren't. And by the way, what they're doing is also illegal because the Doman Method is a trademark owned by Doman International, and we did that specifically so that people wouldn't lie and claim that they're experts. It's a constant problem that we're dealing with. And the issue, the real problem with these groups that say that they teach the Doman Method is that very often they don't do a good job of teaching our program to parents. And then what happens is the parents, when they fail, because they haven't been taught how to do it properly or they haven't been taught the right programs, the parents then think the Doman Method is the problem. They go, oh, it didn't work for us. The Doman Method didn't help my child. But the sadness is they never actually tried the real thing because they were taught by people who aren't certified. So I want to let you like know that's Lee. If you want to send me a message after this with the group that said that they're recognized by Doman International, I'm happy to take a look into it, but I can tell you with almost complete certainty that they made that up and they haven't been approved by us. Okay, I'm sorry to say that. All right. I'm looking through the messages here to see if there are any other questions. I think we have time, everyone, for one or two more questions if you have them. Oh, I have Annabella here. Hi, we're excited waiting for you in Florida. I can't wait to have my appointment here in Florida with you. Oh, that's wonderful, Annabella. Yeah, we're coming to Miami August 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. Actually, I'm realizing earlier in this session, I was announcing all the places we're going to. And since this is the first time we're actually doing appointments in Miami, I forgot to mention it. But Annabella, it's going to be great to have you. And we're really looking forward to meeting you in person. I feel like I know you after having you join this webinar for quite a while. All right. Who else has a question? I think I still have time for one or two more questions. We haven't gotten any questions yet on Facebook or YouTube. So if anyone here has a question, go ahead and start posting them. I think let's see. I think I got thrown out of the live session on Instagram, which is a real shame. All right, everyone. Well, I guess we are all out of questions. Unfortunately, I'm not sure if people on Instagram can still see me, but it seems like we lost access here to our Instagram feed. So I will end off our Q&A here. Thanks to everyone for joining me. I will be doing this next week. I really look forward to seeing what other questions people have. And as I told you, remember we've got our scholarship, the Mother's Day Scholarship, only going for this week for the Doman Method course. It's $200 off. So make sure you reach out to us about that. And yeah, if you have any other questions, please reach out to us on any of our social media channels. All right, everyone, have a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.